This is your one and only 𝐵𝑒𝑟𝑒_81 with your daily dose of video goodness, and welcome back to another informational Cyberpunk video. Today we're going to talk about stacking mods. Let's get to it. So the first mod we're going to take a look at is the Armadillo mod. Now there's a lot of people out there saying a lot of different things, saying that some stack, you got to mix and match, yada yada yada, and I think that comes from item duping. Mods get really wonky if you dupe them. So all the ones that I'm showing you today, I've tested not duped. I've either crafted them or bought them from the store or stripped them from a crafted item. So keep in mind that if you are duping your mods, you are going to get varying degrees of effect here because it sees the mod as the same mod. It's like, it's different. It's another item, but it also sees it as the same item. It's wonky. I'll tell you what, if you're duping them, put duped mods on a piece of your clothing and then drop that clothing on the ground and then pick it back up, and then you'll see what I mean. Anyway, so all versions of the Armadillo mod work. They work just fine. Now, the numbers that you see, most of them aren't correct, but they work just fine. So the base armor on this is 82, right? 82.3 if you want to get technical. These give 183.166. So if we put one of those on there, you can see it went up. Now, if we go and we put another one on there, we're at 448. So two of those mods together, just these two mods, equals 366 armor, plus the 82 that we originally had equals 448. Pay no attention to that increases armor by 516. That's dumb. That's not right. That's just, I don't know what's going on with the UI, and we're going to talk about that here in a bit as well when we get to the damage mods, but it's a mess. The math is all over the place. Half the stuff doesn't make sense, but if you add things up properly, that's what you get there. So that tells us that it is indeed stacking. Now, right now I have 563 armor. If I come over here and I equip these shoes that have the 448 armor on them, you can see that my armor goes up to 1052. And you're like, well, Firespark, the math is wrong there, because if they were only giving you 448, then you would have 1011 armor. That comes from different bonuses that you can get to increase your armor. So if you, for example, have a lot of points into the technical ability, that increases your armor by 5% each level. So that could be modifying it. There's a lot of different things that can modify that stat. But the point is that it's over what the actual math tells us it should be, but it's under what it would be if we added 516 to our armor without the shoes on. So we can deduce from that that it's actually giving us the proper armor amount. All right, the next one that I'm seeing a ton, just an absolute ton of conflicting reports on is the zero drag, which increases your move speed. So this one was relatively easy to test. All I did was run and record it and make sure that I was starting from the exact same spot every single time and ending in the exact same spot every single time. I did it without the mod, with one mod, with multiple mods, and I lined them all up frame to frame and then put them side by side for comparison. And then you can clearly see that there is a much larger difference when you're walking than there is when you're running. There is a difference when you're running or sprinting, but there is a much larger difference when you're just normal walking without holding the sprint key, which I think is why we're seeing so much varying reports. Like when you're sprinting, it's literally frames distance. However, when you are just walking as normal, you can see that it's actually almost a full half-second difference. So it does make a difference, just not much of a difference, and hardly any difference at all when you're sprinting, to the point where it's just completely pointless for sprinting. You would have to stack an absolute ton of these to see a large difference when you're sprinting. Next up is carrying capacity. Carrying capacity stacks. So you can see my carrying capacity here. It's going to actually go up more because I have bonuses to carrying capacity. So if you have the cyberware here, that gives you 40% to your carrying capacity, or whichever titanium bones version you have that increases your carrying capacity, you get even more benefit from stacking the ones that increase carry capacity. So these increase by 11 each. So you can see right now I'm at 392. So stacking 2 of these should put me at 414. However, it is going to actually put me above that because of the increase that I get overall. So here we go. And there you go. After a second there, it had to readjust, and you can see that I'm now at 422 when I should be at 414. So I'm also getting that additional bonus. So that helps even more if you're going to stack those, and you can stack those as much as you want. You can put them on every single piece of clothing and it will just continue to stack. The next one I've seen some conflicting reports on is the fall damage. Fall damage works just fine and they do stack. So I don't have any of those on right now. If we just take a little jump off this building here, you can see I dropped down to 473. Okay, so now let's go back up to the top here, and we're gonna go over here to our shoes, and we're just gonna drop on one of those. So now our fall damage is reduced by 5%, and we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna just do a single jump and fall. And now we're at 477. So with one of those, we went from 473 to 477. Now we're just gonna come back up here. We're gonna add another one onto our shoes, and then you'll see that it does indeed stack. So here we go. We're gonna go over here to our shoes. We're just gonna scroll on down, grab another one, replace that one that's on there. Now we get a full 10%. So we went from 473 to 477. And now if we jump, and we're at 481. So there you go. They work, they stack just fine. Next, we have the resist that's supposed to reduce negative status effects. I don't think this one works at all. I did some testing on this one. Now, I've seen some people do some testing with grenades. I don't feel like respecking, and my grenades don't harm me, but I can call my car and we can just throw some grenades at that bad boy there and blow it up. All right, now that it's all blown up, I can just come up here and stand on it. Now, I should not be taking any damage at all. However, I am. I'm taking 2 every time that it ticks. You can see it ticking there. So I have so many of these stacked right now that even if one of them was working, I should not take any damage, because it should reduce it by 14%. Now, I swapped to one here that doesn't have any of the mods on it at all. It's completely mod free, and I'm just gonna stand on it and show you. I'll take the same amount of damage, so I'm still taking 2 while standing in fire. So from my testing and some other testing that I've read and seen, I'm going to say that those they don't work at all. Next, we have the Tenacity, the stamina cost reduction while attacking. So let's just do one swing here. Okay, so that's how much it takes on one swing. We're gonna equip one Tenacity here. Okay, not much of a difference. So now we have 2 equipped, and when we do the side-by-side comparisons, you can see there is no difference. Okay, so now the mods I'm sure everybody wants to talk about, and that is the crit mods. So we have the Bully and the Fortuna. One adds crit damage, the other one adds crit chance. If we come over here to our gun and follow along with me here for a second, because I'm going to explain something, and it's important because it's just important when you're testing video games altogether. So if we take a look at our gun, we can see that we currently have a crit chance of 76.38. So if I come over here and I add a penetrator to that, which adds 5 crit chance, so we're just going to add that there, you can see that that went up. So by default, it's at 76. If I add 4 of these that add 5, that's going to give us a total of 20%, putting us at 96. So let's do that. Let's just do that real quick. So we're just going to add these in here, and we can see that it went up to 96. Why does that matter? Well, it matters because we can see that those actually stack. The game is giving us the proper feedback that we need to see that those actually stack, because you can't test in this game for crit chance and crit damage. The numbers are just too all over the place, and I'm going to show you that and prove that even more here in a minute. The numbers and the damage is just all over. I've tried to get consistent damage and consistent numbers to show up, but they just don't. If you crit, it's always a different amount. It's too inconsistent to test to say for sure whether or not something is stacking if the game doesn't give you the proper feedback. In this case, it is. So we can assume that it's working, that we're getting that 96%, 96.38% crit chance. We just have to assume, because it could be wrong. It could be showing us that, and we could be assuming, and we may not be getting it. We don't know, because the numbers are just too all over the place. Now, why is that important when it comes to the mods over here? Because if you apply more than one of these to one article of clothing, and it doesn't matter, it could be, I could put them on here, and then I can come over here to my shoes, and we can just drop one on my shoes. So we'll just do that. We'll just drop one on here, okay? It doesn't matter. Only one of these is counted when we look at our stats. So if I take my shoes off right now, and I take my band off, and we come over here and we look at my stats, my crit chance is 24, my crit damage is 108. We come back over here, we put my hat back on, we take a look at my stats, 39, 138. Now if we put those shoes back on, crit chance, an additional 30%, we take a look at the stats, it's the same because it's a buggy game and we don't know. Without it telling us that we have that here, we just have to assume that they don't stack. And that's the same thing for both Fortuna and Bully. They both behave exactly the same. And it's the same thing if I was to put either one of these in this slot here, you're gonna get the exact same effect. It's only gonna go up as if you had one equipped anywhere. And because we have to assume that that is the case, that we have to go by the stats that we're seeing there and assume that those stats are correct, Deadeye does not change either of our stats, even if that's the only one we have equipped. So I will show you that here. We will take the hat off. We will come over here to our boots. We will remove Bully. We will put Deadeye on. Okay. And then we're going to go look at our stats. 24, 108. That was my base, remember? Okay, so let's just check. Let's just remove them and then put them back on, and maybe it'll reset things. Nope, still 24, 108. So because of that, we have to assume that Deadeye just doesn't even work. Now, what about Predator? We can't test for Predator. There's a bunch of people out there saying that, oh, it works, it doesn't work, it works, it doesn't. You can't. You just can't. It's the same reason that we can't test to see if these are working and the interface is bugged, because we already know the interface is buggy, but that just doesn't matter because we have to assume what we're seeing is right, even though it's a buggy interface, because it's almost impossible to test for that. Unless you know somewhere or somehow to get absolute consistent damage numbers every single time. So essentially you're out doing, you find a guy or something that you can give one shot to and get the exact same number every single time in a specific situation, then you can't say it is, something is or isn't, because that's just a flawed test. So if you want to use Predator, I mean, go for it. You can't really tell whether it's working or not. So honestly, I would say because of that, I probably wouldn't go for that one. You're probably much better off just stacking a buttload of armor so that it's harder for the enemies to damage you. As far as Bully and Fortuna, just put one of each of those somewhere on your armor. You got 2 slots on your shoes, drop them on your shoes. Now, with that said, let's talk about some of these gun mods. So, Penetrator works, increases your crit chance. Pacifier also increases your crit damage. You can see right now we are at 152. If we add one of these, we go up to 164. Let's add another one. We go up to 176. So you can do the math on that and tell that, hey, those are stacking. Now, damage, this one is interesting because I've tested the crap out of this one and I can't figure out the math on it. I can't figure out where it's applying the damage and how it's applying the damage because the numbers vary so freaking much that it's ridiculous. So right now you can see our damage. That's what it is. You can see our DPS. You can see our actual damage numbers. It can be anywhere from 2,750 to 3,362. If I just put one of these on here, you can see that it changed way more than 8. So our previous lowest damage amount was 2,750. If we just added 8 to that, we should have 2,758. However, we have 2,864. That's a difference of 114. Now, what's really interesting is if we just keep adding these, they do increase your damage. They do stack. They don't stack for what they say they stack for. I don't know why, but they do indeed stack. You can see now our DPS, for some freaking reason, has went down. It's now saying it's 2,333 when it was previously 2,336. However, our base damage, our lowest damage that we can hit for was 2,750, has now become 3,204. That's a difference of 454 damage. We gained 454 damage by putting 4 of these on here. We should have gained a measly 32, but we gained way more than that. So not only do they stack, they're really good. But what's interesting is I have a bunch of bonuses for pistols. That could be what's causing this to happen. I don't have any bonuses for shotguns. So if we come over here to this just random shotgun, you can see its damage is 31 to 38. So let's drop one of the damage mods on there. All right, so there we go. We got one crunch on there. You can see our damage went up to 39 and our max damage went up to 47. It was 31 and 38. So it somewhat works out because the lower number that we can hit for, the 39, was 31. So that makes sense. We gained 8 additional damage there. However, we gained 9 additional max damage. So we gained an additional point of damage someplace at some point. Now let's just throw another one on there. Now our lowest damage is 46. With 2 of these on here, it should be 47. We lost a point of damage somewhere. And our highest damage number is now 56. It was 38. It should be 54. So we gained 2 additional points somewhere. Now, once again, I don't have anything modifying my damage for shotguns. You can see what I mean when I say it stacks, but your numbers are just all over the place. It's definitely stacking, but I don't know how this game adds our damage up at all. It does not make any sense to me, but they definitely stack. So then we have the combat amplifier, which increases our chance to apply damage related status effects by 5%. And I mean, that's just the one I'm highlighted over. They vary depending on their level. So if we take a look, we have 6% burn chance right now. If we add one of these on here, that jumps up to 11. We add another one and it jumps up to 16. So the math works out. It's giving us the proper feedback that says that it should be working. It's almost impossible to test for, so we just have to assume, since it's giving us the proper feedback in the game, telling us that our burn chance has went up on this specific gun, that it's working. All right, that's pretty much all I have for you for this one. If you found this video helpful, consider hitting the subscribe button and the bell notification so you can be notified when I upload other Cyberpunk videos. I also upload all kinds of other videos for varying things. I do guides for all kinds of games, so you never know when I'm going to be making a guide for a game that you may be playing. All right, that is going to wrap it up for this episode. If you like what you saw, consider hitting that sub button. I want to give a big thank you to my patrons for making this episode possible. You all are absolutely amazing people. If you would like to join my elite crew of Patreon supporters, please check out the link in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. If you're shy, you don't like to comment, just hit that thumbs up button and show your support. Until next time, thanks for watching.